Hello, I'm Richard Hooper and this is SatTV Week. Now I'm here at IBC where I'm pleased to be joined by Lukas Nyström of Satcube. Lukas, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Now the market, very disruptive at the moment with LEO, but GEO versus LEO, what are your views?
Yeah, I mean the elephant in the room, of course, Starlink. It forces every one of us to rethink, to change dramatically. The cost paradigm is changing very quickly. So something that would be acceptable by the market 2 years ago is no longer acceptable because the price tag is too high. I think the GEO versus LEO, it's there is a big hype around LEO, obviously, because they're investing a lot and the networks are being built and they're showing really good performance. But for many of the customers, it doesn't really matter. It's still internet in a way. So if you can provide internet, if you don't need the latency, GEO would do just as well. But if you need the low latency, then of course you're forced to look at LEOs. But it's all about tailoring the terminal and the service to what the user actually needs. So instead of just saying that, hey, LEO is what it is, use it for everything, we should use it for what it's good for, which is the low latency applications, but it's not good for CIR or these types of critical comms. And for those you need maybe private networks where GEO is preferred, because then you have perfect control of where the data is routed, so you know where it ends up, what gateway it goes to, and you can have full control end-to-end from your terminal to the end user. But of course for us as a terminal company, we're looking at both. We need to service all of the different offerings that our customers are demanding. So we'll have a LEO terminal out and we'll have our GEO terminals out for various applications depending on the user needs.
Now, you mentioned the terminals, but of course it's disrupting everybody's thinking about mobility and the terminals themselves. So what is the future there? How are you looking specifically at that?
So I think when it comes to the mobility terminals, one of the big changes that we need to do is the power consumption needs to go down. So when the vehicle is moving, that means that we need to be able to steer the beam because we need to point it at the satellite. And that's regardless of whether the satellite is stationary, as in the GEO case, or it's moving, as in the LEO case. So we need, for all mobility terminals, we need something to allow the beam to steer. And the way that this is done is either mechanically, but then you get something that's rather bulky, or you do it electronically. But the electronic solutions today, they drive a lot of power. So you have terminals that maybe uses 500 watts of power, but if your vehicle is electrified, you want that 500 watts to go into the engine and not being radiated towards the sky. So in order to preserve the battery life of your vehicle, you need the power budget on the roof to go down. And this is a major challenge for us as a terminal developer. Because if you want to do something that reduces the power consumption, you either have to look at more exotic materials or you reduce the performance. And if you want to reduce the cost as well, which is then another addition to this complexity, you can't use those complex materials. So you're forced to operate with the commodity variants, and then the power consumption is going to go up. So we will have to very carefully think about how do we balance cost, power consumption, performance, and size to again tailor to what the customer actually needs.
Now, you never stand still in this game, and a company like Satcube has to keep on innovating. That's a challenge in itself. How do you overcome that?
Yeah, we have to be flexible in the way that we innovate, because we can start off by going down one road. We think that this is the technology of choice, this is what's going to be the best for whatever purpose. But then 9 months later, a competitor or a partner has launched something else, which makes our current thinking obsolete. So then we have to just drop everything we've done and start over. And this, as an engineer, is very frustrating, but it's the only thing that makes commercial sense. And when it comes to the disruptive events that we need to sort of look into is, okay, how can we this is my view. How can we look at what they are doing in telecom, but now do it in Satcom? Because they have done the same type of journey, where they started off being niche private networks, and then they rolled out enlarged, mass volumes, low cost, commodity, and standardized products. So looking at what they did 10, 15, 20 years ago and trying to implement the same in Satcom is going to be a driver. So now I think it's very interesting to see that many of the telcos or the chip providers for telco are now looking to develop stuff for Satcom, which is then going to drive our innovation forward. So we can start using the types of low-cost semiconductors that are used in telcos, but now today we can use it in our product, it's going to be a major change.
Lukas, very interesting. Thank you for talking to me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.